distinguished guest for today's online session, Ms. Navika Chawda. Navika, she's not only a highly accomplished cloud engineer, but also holds the prestigious title of being a Microsoft valuable professional in developer technologies. Her contributions to the tech industry and her commitment to making a positive impact on society are truly remarkable. Navika's impressive list of achievements includes being a featured speaker at prestigious events such as Microsoft Ignite and Global Azure 2022. But shared expertise and insights on cloud computing and Azure. Her dedication to nurturing the next generation of tech talent is evident through her role as a judge for the Microsoft Imagine Cup Junior and a mentorship at tech hackathons in Seattle and Chicago. Moreover, Navika's affiliation as a Gold Microsoft Student Ambassador for 3 consecutive years speaks a lot about her commitment to fostering innovation and leading within the community. What sets Navika apart is not just the technical prowess, but also her compassion. She has dedicated her time and expertise to empower vulnerable sections of society, including visually impaired students and acid attack survivors, by harnessing the power of Microsoft tools and technology. Her noble endeavors truly reflect the values and the positive impact she aims to achieve in the world. So today she will be taking over through all the session to about we will explain about cloud computing, cloud deployment models, various benefits of cloud computing, cloud services, and how to learn Azure from complete scratch. So, like Navika, I would welcome you to the floor, and yeah, you can start now.
Thank you so much for the call. I hope I'm audible to you all.
Yes,
Great. Thank you so much for such a kind and a detailed introduction. It is my pleasure to be here, and I look forward to connect with you all. And I hope the insights that I share with you all regarding Azure will turn out to be very informative and educative. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. Let me share my screen with you all. I hope it is off. Okay then. So I welcome each one of you to today's session of Introduction to Cloud Computing in Microsoft Azure. First, introducing myself in detail, but you've already got such a good introduction about myself. I don't think so. I need to repeat all the stuff. But still, a quick brief introduction, as I just introduced a couple of minutes back that I'm working currently at.
Navika, sorry to interrupt. Your screen is not visible.
It isn't visible?
No, it's not visible.
Oh, one second. Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. Great. Okay, so resharing my screen again. So a quick introduction, just so as because I have the slide prepared with me. So I'm currently working as an Azure cloud engineer at MVP. One thing that I want to share with you all, I'm also a student at IIT Madras and I'm pursuing diploma in programming. And apart from that, I am like very much passionate about speaking at big tech events or maybe, technical conferences and sharing my insights. So Ignite, Microsoft Ignite and Global Azure are one of them. I'm also a lot into judging and mentoring the tech hackathon, be it Tech Together Hackathon, be it in Chicago, or Microsoft Imagine Cup Junior. And apart from this, I always try to share my knowledge with people who really need it. So I've been associated with the vulnerable section of society, wherein I teach them Microsoft tools and technologies to empower them at sufficient. So that's my motto, that is using tech for good, that is using technology for a good cause. And for my work that I've been doing, I've been in the and that's my community service award. So that's a little bit about my. I would love to connect with each one of you. So I have mentioned my LinkedIn slides. Maybe you can take a screenshot and say maybe over LinkedIn anytime, any doubt or guidance. Then let's get started. Okay, so first I'll just set the agenda for today as to what all topics we will be covering. Now, before starting, let me just let you all know that this session is for all those who uh, like who are very new to cloud computing, someone who has no idea about cloud computing. This session is also for the people who are aware of cloud computing but want to dig a bit more into it. So this session is going to.
Ma'am, sound is not clear.
Now is it better?
Yeah, ma'am, it's better now.
Okay. Just you can just unmute and let me know anytime because I just want the sound to be clear. I hope it is better now. And I'll speak a little bit maybe.
It's actually breaking, ma'am. It's a sound is clear, but it's breaking actually in between.
Okay, just give me a second. Actually, I'm using Bluetooth speakers, so maybe that could be the reason. Okay, now is it fine?
Yes, ma'am, it's better now.
Okay, I'll just maybe get the speaker a little bit closer to my mouth. I hope now it's fine. Okay, so then we shall continue. So the agenda. So we're going to start with what cloud computing is all about. Then we're going to dig into the deployment models of cloud computing. What are the benefits of using cloud computing, its services? Now, once we are done with all these things, then we would be moving ahead with Microsoft Azure because till now your face would be set about cloud computing. And then we're going to start digging into Microsoft Azure. And then so I'll try to make the session as much as practical as possible because that will help in your better learning and understanding. So then we're going to do a quick run through of the Azure portal as to how it looks like. This the glance at the different Azure resources. And post that, we're going to move forward with the hands-on labs or the practicals, whatever you wish to call it, wherein we are going to dig into Azure Compute, that is virtual machines, storage and a different types. And then we're going to do some good amount of practicals, which makes you understand as to what the entire idea of Azure is all about. And then towards the end, you can feel free to ask me questions. We're going to keep some 5-10 minutes for that as well. So then let's get started. Okay. Now, what is cloud computing at all? So cloud computing is basically the delivery of computing services over the internet, right? That is the basic definition. That means services such as networking, analytics, storage, compute. And when these all things are made available to us via internet, via a cloud provider, it is known as cloud computing. Or like in a layman's language, we can also say that, let me just take the highlighter. Yeah. So we can also say that renting resources on some other company's computer, right? Understanding as to what cloud computing is all about. Now the companies who provide such these services are known as cloud providers. So for example, Microsoft is a cloud provider and it provides us with a cloud computing service known as Azure, right? Now, why do we need cloud computing at all? Or, I mean, why should even we go in for it? So it follows the best part. That's something that even I like about it, that it follows a consumption-based model or a pay-as-you-go model. What does that mean? That you have to pay exactly for the resources that you are using, exactly for the solutions of the resources that you are consuming. So it follows a consumption-based model. So you do not have any upfront costs, right? You don't have to pay for the maintenance of the infra or for the hardware. You just have to exactly pay for what you are using. Now, cloud computing provides us with a lot of services, which includes networking, compute, storage, analytics, and much more. But today, because Azure is an ocean, and obviously, in order to cover so many services that in such a short period of time, it is a task. So that is the reason we would be covering compute and storage in today's session. Moving forward. Okay, now let's discuss what compute power and storage is all about. This is a very higher level overview that I'm going to give you. Do not worry if you don't understand certain jargons that I'm speaking. though I'll try to make it very basic, and then we're going to cover that in the further slides as well. Now, what is compute power? Now, the daily activities that we perform on the net, right? Online, maybe let's suppose I'm sending an email, or I am doing some online booking reservation or some online transactions, payments. What are they actually doing? We are interacting with these cloud compute services, right, or servers, wherein we send a request, it gets processed at the back end, and then we get a response, right? That is the cycle that happens. So at the end of the day, as users or consumers or maybe customers, we all are dependent on these cloud-based servers, right? The cloud computing provides us with this option where we can create our resources according to our need and requirements. Let's suppose if I want to create a resource wherein I have to, I want a good sort of maintenance over it, and I want a good hold over my resource, then maybe I can go ahead and I can create virtual machine. Okay. I'm going to explain in detail for what VM or virtual machine is all about. So you can maybe just ignore that particular word for now. And then coming on to the second thing, that is storage. Now we know that all the devices, either they read the data or they write the data. So for example, if we are looking up at the price of something online, right? So what are we doing? We are reading the data. Or let's suppose we are clicking a picture, right? So we are writing the data. Best part of cloud computing is the storage. So it basically helps us store different types of data in different types of ways. For example, if I want to store, let's suppose, a text file, or I want to store a video, then I can easily store it on a disk, right? Or maybe if I want to store something like in relationship-based data, maybe something, if I want to store an address book, then I can go ahead and I can store it in much a structured format. For example, I can store it in a database. So that's what cloud computing provides us with, with storage. And the best part is you can always scale up and scale down the storage. If I wish to store something else in it, which is a little bit heavier in size or something, I can always pay a little bit extra for the storage, and then I can save my resource over there, so on and so forth, right? So that's about compute and storage on a very, very basic level. Now, next up is, okay, now what are the benefits of using cloud computing? Why should you go ahead with cloud computing at all? So the first one is cost effective. It is pretty much cost effective. And I think I mentioned in the first slide itself that it follows this pay as you go model, right? So you have to exactly pay for the service that you're using. And you do not have any upfront costs, right? You don't have to worry about maintaining the hardware or updating the software. No, nothing of that sort. What you have to concentrate is on building, testing, and deploying your application. So that's why we say that it follows the pay as you go model. And it's pretty much good because you don't have to basically worry about paying and the maintaining the stuff, the hardware and all, which takes a lot of it just pay as you go model basically makes your working pretty much efficient. Just in a nutshell, that's what we can say. Now the second thing, it is scalable. So at any point of time, at any given point of time, you can always increase or decrease your resources or the SKUs of your resources. SKUs is like size, maybe you can say in a way, right? But we call it SKU, SKU. So you can always do that as per your needs and requirements. So now there are two types of scaling. The first one is a vertical scaling, and the other one is the horizontal scaling. Now, what is the vertical scaling? For example, if you have a resource of yours and if you want to add more RAM, CPU, etc., into it, that is called vertical scaling, which is also known as scaling up. And the second type of scaling is the horizontal scaling. Now, what's that? For example, that is like a replication of the service. Maybe you can understand that way. So you already have one server with you, and now you want to add different service to it. Basically, you have one server, you want to duplicate it, and you want to add more servers. That's like the horizontal scaling. There are these two types of scaling, right? That's just an extra information that I thought of giving it to you. And the third advantage is that it is elastic. What does that mean? Elastic basically means cloud computing provides you with this facility wherein it automatically increases or decreases your resources according to your needs and requirements. So, for example, if you're hosting a website of yours and suddenly it has been maybe featured in some media or some newspaper or something, So overnight, you will be having so much of traffic on your website, and it's going to get difficult for you to handle if you're not hosting it on a cloud computer service. But since if you are hosting it on a cloud computing service, then automatically your resources will get added up, and your resources will automatically scale up in order to cater to that sudden traffic that your application is facing or the website is facing. And as soon as the traffic comes back to normal, or maybe back to what it was previously, the resources would automatically come back to normal. You have to just pay exactly for what you have at that moment. So that is known as elasticity. Now, the fourth one is that it is current. It is current in a way that obviously you don't have to worry about any other thing but just testing, building, testing, and deploying your applications, right? Everything is taken care of the cloud providers. Now, the third last one is it is reliable. So I'm actually going to combine reliability and security together. So basically, obviously, if you're hosting some website of yours or whatsoever on cloud, you want to be very sure that your data that you're putting up there, it has to be secure. It has to be safe all the time, right? Safe all the time. So and that's what cloud providers provide you with. So you have this option of data backup, data recovery, disaster recovery, etc., etc. Your data is always safe, and you can just totally rely on it. And the last one is that it is global. Global, that means it has its data sets all over the globe. So it helps in availability of your resources, right? There is not much of latency. There's a lot of availability, and it has data centers all over the globe. So these are a few benefits of using cloud computing. Now moving forward. Now coming on to the cloud deployment model. So we have these three types of cloud that we have. That is the public cloud, private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. Now what is the public cloud? A public cloud is basically a cloud that is hosted and operated by the cloud provider or by the third party. Now, for example, Microsoft Azure, right? It is a public cloud. And we just have to rent, or we just have to sort of pay for the resources that we want, and we can simply use that. We don't have to worry about the backend, maintaining the hardware or the software, etc. So that is the public cloud. And of course, if everything is being maintained and operated at the cloud provider's end, so then obviously you have to pretty much cost effective as well, because you don't have to worry about its maintenance. So for example, Azure is an example of a public cloud. The second type of cloud is that a private cloud. Now, what's that? Now, there are some companies or organizations who wish to be very, they wish to create their own cloud environment. So the company creates their own cloud environment in their own data center, right? And then they provide that access to the cloud to the users of their company or the organization. That is known as the private cloud. Got my point? I'll just repeat this once again. It could be a little bit confusing. So the companies who host the cloud environment in their own data centers of the organization, that is what is known as private cloud. And then the companies provide the access to that cloud to their users of the organization. So for the users of the organization, it is like a public cloud because they are just taking the resources, etc. But for the company, it is actually a private cloud because they are the one who have to make sure that the infra is proper, they are maintaining the hardware, the software, etc., etc. So it is a bit of more of a responsibility, obviously, private cloud, because you are sort of operating everything at your own place, right, at your own data center. So private cloud is pretty much you have much of responsibilities on your shoulders compared to the public cloud. And the last one is the hybrid cloud. So what is a hybrid cloud? Hybrid cloud is basically a combination of the public cloud and the private cloud. And I think this is pretty much customizable in a way we can say, right? So what that basically means is that, for example, if you have a website which you want to host and you want to host it publicly, so you can go ahead for a public cloud, but you want to sort of link it with some data of yours that is pretty much confidential to you and you won't keep it private. So in that case, you can go ahead with the hybrid cloud. That, okay, I'm going to host my website publicly, but I'm going to link it with a database that is private to me, that is in the private cloud. This is a combination of public and a private cloud. So an amalgamation of both is basically a hybrid cloud. So that is what hybrid cloud actually means. Okay. The second last topic of cloud computing maybe is now, what are the different types of cloud services? So we have these three types of cloud services, that is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Now, while I've explained you each one of them, I guess it is better that I move forward and you're able to see this table. So what happens in infrastructure as a service is there are 50% of those resources that you are responsible for, and there is something that is the cloud provider is responsible for. So in infrastructure as a, so okay, let's go a step back and understand. If we have everything on premises, right? If we do not host anything on the cloud, so this is the scenario like you manage, right? That means all this stuff we have to manage. We have to manage the operating system, the updation of that, the networking, storage, service, etc., etc. Everything is on our shoulders. But now when we go ahead with the cloud computing, so it categorizes itself or its resources into these three different services. That is IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and a software as a service. When we talk about infrastructure as a service, so we can almost say that okay, 50% of the 50% of the services are managed by us, and the rest are managed by the cloud provider, which includes virtualization, servers, storage, networking, etc. When we talk about platform as a service, there are a couple of things that we manage as users, but the rest, if you see these dark blue highlighted blocks, all this stuff is actually managed by the cloud provider, right? So that is platform as a service. So you don't have to worry much about all this stuff then. And when it comes to software as a service, then everything is managed by the cloud provider only. You just have to concentrate on building your application and maintaining your own part. The rest, everything is taken care by the cloud by the cloud provider. So, for example, Office 365, that is software as a service, an example. And infrastructure as a service is a virtual machine, and then platform as a service, an example is storage, right? So these are a couple of examples, and these are the cloud services that are provided. And now moving forward, this was, I know, pretty much theoretical, but it was pretty much important for us to understand as to what all these things are. And that's only when we can actually move to Azure. So at this point, I am hoping that you must have understood at least 50% of what I spoke. At least you have that basic of cloud computing clear as to what it means, why do we need it, certain benefits of it, how it works. At least you must be having a little clarity about it. And now, since you have that clarity, now we move to Microsoft Azure and understand it completely. I'll try to cover as many topics as possible today, so that you get this session turns out to be very, very fruitful to you in terms of the practical labs as well. So now, what is Azure? Definitely, Azure is the cloud computing platform or a cloud computing service provided by Microsoft, right? So Azure totally promotes you just have to focus on building, testing, and deploying the applications and nothing else. The rest, everything is taken care of the cloud provider's end. Now, Azure has around 200 plus services that are from different categories. And in my next slide, I have those categories mentioned. But in this session, we are going to concentrate on compute and storage only. So, for example, we have these different services that are provided by Azure. These are the categories actually of the services, and then within this, you have a lot many other services. So, starting from AI, ML, then you have analytics, you have Azure Compute that we would be talking about today, right? Which includes virtual machines. Then we have containers, then we have DB databases. Then you have IoT, Internet of Things. You have management and governance, identity services. Then you have networking. Networking basically this includes virtual networks, etc., etc. I am not going in depth into each of these services because it's not possible to do that in such a short span of time. And as I always say, Azure is an ocean, and you really got to understand these services properly in order to get an expertise in it. So that's the reason I chose compute and storage for today's session, because since it is first Azure session for most of you present here, it's going to be easier for you to understand that, and even from the practical point of view. So that's what your Azure services are. And definitely, while I show you a little bit demo of this, so I can maybe show you what these services are on the portal and all. You can just quickly give a glance at it and you can over to it. So that's mostly about the Azure services. Okay, I can see some messages on the chat. I didn't open it. I'd be looking at the chat towards the end. So even if you have any question, I'll take it up at the end. So you don't have to worry about it. Now, moving forward, okay, before going on to the practicality of it, let's understand how do you manage, and I guess there should be one more word over here, create. How do you manage or create the resources on Azure? The thing that we would be doing today is that we would be going through the Azure portal and we would be using this as the way to create and manage our resources. So this is very basic. You have a UI, you have this site that is portal.azure.com, and that basically helps you in building, managing and monitoring your services, right? What are your solutions or your resources, I'm sorry, right? So that is what the Azure portal is. Their UI user interface is pretty much simple. It's quite user friendly, especially for a person who is sort of doing it for the first time. It's just a matter of 2 clicks and you will see your resources created just like a magic. So Azure portal is very basic and it's very user friendly. That's what we're gonna do today. Apart from that, we have Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell that we can use to create the resources. Azure CLI is basically a command line interface, and we usually use this for automation purposes. Then you have Azure PowerShell. Again, you can use this as well to create your resources that contain certain commands for how to create each of the resources. You can go ahead with this as well. And then you have automation. Okay, so for example, if you want to create one resource or two resources, or let's suppose 5, 10 resources, you can definitely create it from Azure portal. And you can create more resources as well. That's never an issue. But if you have to create something a huge infrastructure or something, you want to create resources that are dependent on each other, then I guess automation is the best way to do it. And of course, you have Azure portal. You can always do it to that as well. But I'm just letting you know these are different ways of creating resources on Azure portal, right? So automation, I am especially an automation person. So I always try to automate things as much as possible. So automation is basically you can use CI/CD pipelines, and then you can it's basically a combination of ARM templates and PowerShell scripts. Don't worry about all this stuff. We are not going to look into this today, but what we are going to concentrate is on Azure portal. But still, to just give you a quick glance as to what are the different ways that maybe in future you can do. So yeah, these are the ways how you can create the resources on Azure. Okay, and then moving forward. Okay, so before starting, let me just give you a quick overview that how this architecture or a better way is a hierarchy is in Azure portal. So basically what we have is this is the topmost thing in this diagram, that is the management group. So we have a management group at the top. Try to understand this carefully, right? What is a management group? Nothing but a group of subscriptions, right? So for example, currently I just have one subscription that I'm using, but there are cases you can have more than one subscription. You can have 2, 3, 4 subscriptions. If you wish to group those, that can be grouped under the management group. You can see this, right? For example, this management group has 2 subscriptions in it. Then comes the third topmost is the subscription. So that basically means that the subscription that you are currently using, right? Nothing much. And now within each subscription, you have resources, right? And within resource group, you put in a resource. So basically, whenever you have to create a resource in Azure, it needs to be put in somewhere. And that container where you put that resource, that is nothing but a resource. So you can actually imagine it in a way that you have a bag that is nothing but a container, and within that you're putting your items. So the items are the resources, and that bag in which you're carrying those items is a resource group. So that's like a very basic layman's example, which you would be able to understand as to what resource group and resources are. So a resource group can contain any resources, any number of resources, and a subscription can contain any number of resources. So that is how it looks like. And the hierarchy is like. Okay, then starting with the practical almost now, we have almost reached that stage. So understanding what is Azure Virtual Machine. So Azure Virtual Machine is a part of Azure Compute. And now what is a virtual machine actually? A virtual machine is nothing but an emulation of your physical computer, right? So the laptop that you're just staring in front of, right, today or every day, it's just like that. I mean, the UI is pretty much same to that. A virtual machine, it has an operating system and it has a hardware which gives you an appearance as if you're working on your physical computer only, on that which you are working currently. So it includes a virtual processor, storage, network resources, and memory. Um, uh, and then you have this operating system. It could be Linux, it could be Windows. I will show you that in a while properly. And so you can host an operating system in your virtual machine, and then you can install any software that you wish to. You can test and deploy your applications in a virtual machine. You can just use for testing, etc., etc. So that are the use cases of your virtual machine. But now the question arises that when there are so many similarities between a virtual machine and your physical computer, then what is the difference at all, right? So the difference is that here you don't have to buy the hardware, you don't have to sort of upgrade the software, etc., right? Everything is taken care by the cloud provider, that is Azure. You just have to simply, it's just a matter of few clicks to create a VM. Okay, so virtual machine or VM, and you simply have to start working on it. Whereas in your physical computer, that is not the case. You have to take care of its maintenance as well. So that's a little bit about virtual machines. Now I'm going to show you the practical of it, and let's move on to the Azure portal then. Okay, just one thing before we move forward. So what we sort of, I can refer this to as a virtual machine also, a VM also, a server also. It means the same. So these are just different jargons for the same thing. So if I refer this as server or a VM, it's nothing but a virtual machine, just to be very clear. Okay, then I'm just going on to the other. Is there a way to hide this? Okay, so this is what your Azure portal basically looks like, right? So this is the URL for it. I hope you're able to see my screen. Can just one of you please maybe unmute and tell me or put it on the chat?
फ्यूचर है क्या?
अबे रुको, seven.
I didn't get you. Is there anyone who can just tell me, because I've shared another screen if it is visible?
Yeah, ma'am, screen is visible.
It is visible, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take up the questions towards the end. Don't worry, I've seen a couple of questions. I'll answer each one of them towards the end. Okay, so this is the URL of your Azure portal, and you can simply create an account over here. And you can also create a free account, and then you can get onto this Azure portal, right? Now, okay, so this is what is your notifications bar, right? Whatever you have created and all. Like I just created a couple of things. So it's just showing that over here. And whatever activities that you perform, it gets shown up over here in the notification bar. Just quickly going through the UI so that you understand. This is nothing but your, this is basically, this shows your account via which you have logged in, right? And then here, if you see towards the left panel, we have these different services that are provided by Azure, right? And also here, if you search, you will be able to see these different services, right? If I go to all services, the ones that I showed you, those 18 categories, right? Different categories, and then you have different services within it. So you can see that over here. For example, you have AI and machine learning, you have 20 services within it, analytics, then you have compute, within that we have VMs, right? And similarly, you have containers, which includes Kubernetes, etc. Certain things are in the preview stage as well, and then you have databases, DevOps, etc., etc. Right? So these are different types of categories that we have. Different categories of services that we have. Now, the first thing that we are going to do right now is we are going to create a simple VM, a Windows VM, and post that we are going to create a web server on it, right? That is accessible via internet. So that is the first thing that we would be doing. That's fine. You can maybe just watch this properly, because I don't know if you guys would be having the subscription or not, but I'll take you very slowly through it so that you completely understand. And I guess this session is live also, so maybe you can on the YouTube, you can rewatch it again if you have any doubts. You can reach out to me as well later on. That's completely fine. So the first thing that we do, if you recall what I told you, before creating any resource, the first thing that we have to do is create a resource group, right? If you recall that slide of mine with that hierarchy. So let's do that. So you go to resource groups, right? I already have a couple of them created, but let me create a new one for today's session. So maybe I've created IIT demo new. You can select the region. I always select East US because it has good number of data centers. And that's it. Then I have to simply review and create it. Now, while you start working on portal, etc., on Azure, we get to know that naming conventions are very important, right? So always try to be very particular about the naming conventions, because if you have a lot many resource groups or solutions, it's going to get difficult for you to understand. So it's very important you maintain a resource group with the correct naming convention. Now, whatever solutions that I would be making today as a part of a demo or as a part of the practical, I'm going to put everything inside this IIT demo new resource group, and it's going to show it over here, right? And once my demo is done and we're done with the session today, then I'm going to delete it. Now, the reason why I'm going to delete that resource group is because if I keep it on, it's just going to add up to my cost, right? So why should I go down on my cost? I don't need that infra anymore. So I'm going to delete it directly, right? Now that I've created a resource group by the name IIT demo new, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a VM. So I go to virtual machines. I already have 2 VMs created with me for some other purpose. I'll be creating a new one now. Here we get an option to select the resource group. The one that I created, I'm selecting that. I'm going to name okay. So I created a name by the name of the VM as IIT demo new VM, right? The region remains the same. And now here you have an option of selecting the images. Images basically means the operating system. So if like right now I'm creating a Windows virtual machine, right? So I go ahead and I'm selecting this Windows Server 2022, right, as the image or as the operating system of my virtual machine. If someone wants to go ahead and create a Linux VM or an Ubuntu, then you can see you have Red Hat and all these are some different types of operating systems that are provided. But for today, we are going to create a Windows server. So that is the reason I selected this. Security type. So ATL is a new security type that is coming. But yes, I'm going to go ahead with the standard one. Then here I'm going to create I'm giving a username and a password to my VM, right? So we have to create a username and password for the VM that we are doing. And here, if you see, these are the sizes of the VM. So currently, the size that I'm using is the standard B2MS. But here you have different options, different sizes also available. You see, there are so many sizes that you can select, depending on the GB that you want, the RAM that you want, the data disk that you want, the number of CPUs you want for your VM. And according to that, see, you have these monthly costs as well. I have gone ahead with this one. That is the most used one. If you see, that is the B2MS, wherein I have to just pay rupees 4,700 per month. But here right now, I'll show you the cost. It's around rupees 6 per hour that I have to give it. That's it. Nothing else. Once that is done, I simply review and create it. And you see now how much this VM costs. That is 6.5 rupees per hour to me. Once that is done and the validation has been passed, I create this VM. It might take a couple of minutes to get created. Now, once this is done, right, once the deployment is succeeded, post that we are going to get into the VM, and I'm going to show how it actually looks like. And after that, we are going to create a web server on. So you see, it's just a matter of few clicks, right? I mean, had I not, if I wouldn't have explained you this and I would have just created by myself, it's not even it's like 30 seconds task to create a VM there. Just because it's the explanation took time, otherwise it's just 30 seconds to 40 seconds at max that we have to, it takes to create a virtual machine on Azure. So someone who is starting with it, it's your first time, I mean, it's pretty much simple. And then everything is explained to you side by side, right? UI is also very user friendly. So it might take a minute or so to create.
Can we ask question here? It's pretty interesting. Yeah. So when you're choosing that different hard software and hardware like the operating system and the database, everything here. So how do you decide okay what is the size of the hardware I should choose based on the application you choose like or based on the users you select those hardware. Also, suppose you have chosen particular hardware. Okay, fine with this size RAM and DB everything right chosen application went live. So after that, you realizes, okay, no, this is not enough good enough for my requirement. So during that go live production, after that applications go live already online. So can we switch that change to the higher, different configuration? Is it possible?
Right. So I'll just show that to you. 1 second, like this. Okay. So your first question, see, this is for example, a demo VM, right? That I created, and I know that I don't have to do much on this VM. It's just for demo purpose, right? That is the reason I went ahead with the B2MS. So here, if you come, here if you have this size option, right? Sorry. And this is a VM that I've already created. Yes, you have an option that you can always select some another one as well. But it depends from resources to resources. There are some resources wherein you might have to create a new resource again, right? If you want to change the size after the application or whatever the VM has been created. So it depends. We cannot generalize this. But again, you do have this option of size where you can come and you can select some another one. The idea, so I didn't think much about the hardware. Like what I just, while creating, I just had one thing in my mind that I want a Windows server, right? And I selected the latest one. And here you see in Windows, we have these different options. And along with that, we have these different options of how much RAM we need. So that's when I thought, so absolutely, as you said, it depends on your needs and requirements. That how much RAM do you need, how much data disk there should be, how much IOPS should be there, temporary storage, how much should be there. Now, if you're running an application, for example, in your virtual machine, right? Or you're using it for some storage purpose, hypothetical situation, that wouldn't be the case definitely, but just hypothetically, then it depends on what your requirement is. If you're doing some very loaded tasks in your VM and you really want it to have good amount of space, and then definitely you can go in for these different series. You have these series, and you can check it out that okay, how much data disk it provides, how much RAM. Maybe 8 GB wouldn't be sufficient or it wouldn't suffice. Then you can go ahead and you can create a 32 GB one. So certain things that you have to keep in mind, right? What is your need and requirement? How much it costs you? Because I mean, of course, right? Cost is also equally important. You have to whenever you plan a certain thing, maybe in your organization or whatsoever, you need to make a solution that is very cost sufficient, right? So that's always there. And one more thing is that whenever you change the size of your virtual machine, you would have to stop it and then you would have to restart it again. These are certain things that you have to keep in mind. But yeah, while creating, these are a couple of things that you have to keep in mind: your need requirements, and then the cost, and then how much RAM and all you need, and that all depends on your requirements. So I hope I answered your question. And
So you mean to say there will be a downtime, like when you when you switch to different sizes. So there would be a downtime, right?
right, then it's always better to do it when you already have. So if you have that downtime, what do you say? There, right? You will maybe you will have to take a downtime over that from this to this time. We are going to change it. We are going to change this queue. So you might have to take a permission and all. I don't know for which reason, as in you're asking, but like I'm talking
It
about.
actually, deviates from that Azure claim of 99 point something availability of the thing. So, I mean, if suppose there is a breakdown happened on one particular center, so your
Hmm.
system will be automatically, there will be zero downtime as per the claim they make. So different center will become online. So I believe for deployment also, I mean, when an application is already online, okay,
Hmm.
so when switching between the parameter should not have any downtime for the application that is
Hmm.
up and running.
That's something different. So when you talk about the downtime of Azure, so what they mean by the resources, if there is resources down or there is a failure at their resource end, that's when the downtime, that's what they mean, right? That is the SLA, that is the service level agreement for. But now this is our conscious decision that okay, we want to change it, and this is the application that we have created, right? So it is a conscious decision that we are making now that okay, we are going to change this thing and it's going to definitely, you'll have to switch the VM off and you have to restart it or whatsoever, right? So this is nothing to do got to do with their SLA. Their services are not going down, right? Because of their this thing. It's because of us that okay, we are wanting to do it and we have to restart the resource. These are two different things. I hope you get my point, right?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
So
go
it's not
through it.
that maybe we can continue this discussion maybe
Yeah,
afterwards.
please go ahead, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much. But I'll maybe if you have any questions, you can always ask towards the end because others are waiting, right? But yeah, again, these are two different things. The SLA that Azure provides, that is different. That if their resource goes down or something, and this is different. Okay, then coming back to where we were. Okay, so we have created this Azure virtual machine, right? Now the next thing that we have to do um, is that we have to connect to it. I hope I remember the password that I put. But anyway, so okay, so nothing. We just click on Windows R. There's different ways of connecting. You can connect via this. So the way that I still do is that I click on Windows R. I open the Windows R, and then after that I type MSCSC. Okay, I copy this public IP address of the VM that we automatically get after the creation, and after that I paste it here. Once that is done, I click on connect. The username that I had set, if you recall, right? And then I put in the password. Then I click on OK. Okay, I maybe forgot the password. Azure user. Oh God, I forgot the password in the conversation in between. Allah. Okay. No worries. Let me just try one last time. Okay, no worries. So I guess I forgot the password. So in that case, you can change the password as well. You do have an option for that, but I don't want to waste my time in doing that. So I'll quickly create a new VM. And then if anyone has questions, it's better if you take it to the end, right? Okay. Okay. So I'm quickly creating the VM. I think there's an option of changing the password as well in case you forget. But I thought it's better to create one quickly rather than changing it again.
Ma'am, one more question here for same VM. Sorry. Uh,
That's
so
completely
this creating VM actually, sorry.
yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
can. Okay, so creating VM actually is a IaaS service or like is a platform as a service, ma'am?
This
Because it's a software. Yeah, sorry.
infrastructure as well.
Okay, it's infrastructure. Okay. So
But
why it is not platform? I mean, how it is different than the platform as a service?
I mean, I told you, right? And besides, there are certain things that we're able to manage over here, and there is a little bit of things that are so there are okay. So there are 50% things that we are able to manage here, right? In infrastructure as a service, that is in OVM, right? Whereas, for example, if we talk about storage, that is a platform as a service, that is PaaS, right? So there, 50% of the things within that particular resource are managed by the cloud provider, and 50% are managed by us. Just because of this, and I can maybe once we're done with this and towards the end, I can show this slide also to you, wherein what exact services are managed by Azure and what are managed by us. And that is the reason these services are categorized into different categories, that is IaaS and PaaS and SaaS. That is the reason the VM, because of the services that how they are managed, it comes under infrastructure. And if anyone has any questions to ask right now, maybe you can ask the question on that.
Do we have any like you have mentioned concept of the subscription here and resource group?
Yeah.
So one subscription will have multiple resource group, right? As you can say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
can we address that particular resource group under different subscription?
One second. So just 1 second, Hari. So I just want to show this to you. So at times what happens, at times to you all, when we create a virtual machine in Azure, at times the agent is not ready. So the basic troubleshooting method that we follow is that we just quickly restart the virtual machine. Usually, and this is nothing got to do with how we have created the VM. It just happens at the back end at times, right? So we quickly just restart the VM and we see that if it's working fine, and after 1 or 2 minutes, it's usually off. Because it happens with me most of the time, so restarting it works fine. It's nothing, it's just that the agent on which the VM is running, that is not up, or there is some issue with it. You don't have to worry about such things. If it happens in case, you can just refresh it and see after some time. Mostly it is off. See, now I guess it's free, it's in the running way, and now it has worked. I guess Hari was the one who asked the question. So if you don't mind, I think it's better that we take the question towards the end, right? Because we also reaching the end of the session, so I just want to cover a certain thing.
Yeah, Hari, you can ask your questions. Or anyone who are having questions can post their questions in the chat box.
Right.
That receive them later.
Because that just sort of interrupts the. I hope you understand the base as well, right?
Yeah, Navika can continue.
Yeah. Thank God. Okay, it got connected. So now I've put in the password and the username, and now I'm clicking on yes, and now we are connecting to our virtual machine. Good, the earlier one, I forgot the password for it. It's actually a blessing in disguise because I wanted to show this also to you that in case the agent of the VM is not ready, so how do you troubleshoot it? You have to simply click on restart, or maybe you can stop and restart as well, and your VM is going to work perfectly fine. That's the, I mean, 95% of the 95% of the time it's going to work fine, right? So good that I forgot the password of the previous VM. I was able to show this to you there. That what if the agent is not ready? Okay, so now what I'm doing, I've just entered the password and these all stuff, and now I've got into the VM, right? And now it takes a little bit time to come up, and that is completely fine because you're running your VM for the first time, right? And you haven't opened it any time before this. That is the reason it's taking little time to come up. Those background services and tasks are going on. Server manager is opening, so you can give 1-2 minutes to it. That is completely fine.
Navika, if you want, you can take some more minutes, like 10 or 15 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to take.
Extend.
I mean, yeah. There's just five minutes left, so it's going to get over. But I'm not worried about it completely.
Yeah,
I'm going to take notes. That's fine. As far as you all are able to understand, that's what the aim is. Oh, okay. So you've seen once. Okay, so let me just quickly show you actually. This is how your virtual machine looks like. Does it even feels as if you're working? It's not your local machine, but it is a VM, right? It just gives you an appearance exactly how your local computer or your local machine, sorry, looks like, right? Now what we have to do is that we have to create a web server, right? Now in order to do that, what am I doing is that I go to the server manager of the VM, right? And after that, so of course, you would be having some server manager in any of the server, right? A Windows server. So here also in the virtual machine, we have this server manager. So we go into it and we have this option of add roles and features. I click on it and then we simply go next, next, next. And here you have an option of web server IIS. I simply click on it and I add it as a feature. I click on next, 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 and then I install it, right? So nothing, I just added web IIS as a feature over here. And then I click on install. I keep on clicking next, 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 and then I click on install. Now it's just starting the what you call the installation, and I guess it's going to take around 30 seconds or so in order to complete the installation. So let's wait for 30 seconds. So you see it started, it's about to complete 50% of it. Taking the cycling time, honestly speaking, but maybe it would be because we are running it for the first time. That's completely fine. Maybe 1 minute or so. In the meanwhile, whatever doubts you have till now, maybe you can post them in the chat and then we can take it towards the end. And you don't have to worry, even if your questions remain unanswered because of time constraint or something, which I'll try not to happen, but 1% that's the case, then you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime and I'll be more than happy to clear it out and explain you in detail as well. If you want me to reiterate certain topic, I can do that also. You don't have to worry about that. You can always reach out to me otherwise as well for any type of doubt clear. So it's not that once the session gets over, it's going to get difficult for you to reach out to me. Not that way. Okay, so the feature installation has also been completed on the server manager. So now what next we are going to do is we are going to go to the file explorer of the virtual machine, right? I go to C drive. Here we have this path. We go to init pub. We go to www root. And here, I hope it is properly visible to you. And here what I do, I create a file, okay? Any simple index or HTML file or something. And within this file, I write something. Maybe, well, hey there, welcome to Azure session, something of that sort. And I save it. And then what I do is, if you see, so though I've given HTML as the this thing as the extension, but it is not HTML. So what I'm going to do is I go to file name extensions, and you see this .txt file. So let me convert it into HTML first. Okay, and now it has become an HTML. Let me close this. Let me close this as well. And now what I'm doing, I'm just minimizing my VM or the server, what you want to call it. And I click on this public IP address of the now what I'm doing, I've clicked on the public IP address of the virtual machine and try accessing that on the internet. A question to you all, just think in your mind, whether would I be able to access this particular link over the internet or not? Okay, so the answer is no, we wouldn't be able to do that. So the site can't be reached. Why? Because in order to access this particular IP address on the internet, we need to give certain networking routes to it, right? Because it runs on HTTP, port number 80. So we need to allow that port number 80 on this VM networking as well, right? And that is when we'll be able to access it. Otherwise, it is just spinning and spinning and it says it's not reachable. So what we do, we go onto the networking of the virtual machine that we created, and I'm going to add an inbound port. So till now only RDP is allowed. I create an inbound. So quick, what is networking? Here we have two things, inbound and outbound ports. And what it does basically is it either allows you, it allows or not, does not allow the access to the internet, etc., to your VM. So anything that you want to configure, you do it over here in the networking related to the networking of the VM, right? So now that I want it to be accessible on the net, so what I'm going to do is I go onto the inbound port of the virtual machine networking, and I click on add inbound. Your service will be HTTP, port number is 80, allow, let me make the priority to 100, and I add, right? And now hopefully I would be able to access that particular page that I created on the VM. Hey there, welcome to Azure session. But there is also a possibility that it takes time at times, to show it up. So it might take 2-3 minutes as well. If you see, I've created this particular outbound port and inbound port, sorry, and it has taken a little bit time to show it up. So, but it's fine. Let's check maybe if I hope it reflects the changes. If not, we can check after 5 minutes as well. See, now it's working fine. And now and you can take that IP address. Maybe I can share that to you later on the chat. And you can see you're able to access this. Hey there, welcome to Azure session. So that's the creation of a simple web server on an Azure VM. I hope that is clear. And mind you, I'm accessing this public IP address of the VM outside the virtual machine. This is from a very normal, my local machine's web browser and not the VM. Something that I created on the VM, now I'm able to access on the internet via its public IP address, right? So you can make this more, fancy and all, but this is very simple because of lack of time. I just wrote something of this sort. Otherwise, you can make it decorated, whatever you want to put inside this web page, you can do that. So this is how it works, basically. This is basically a creation of a simple web server. And this is very popular as well, generally in the field, creating a web server on VM. So that's how you do it. Okay, now, the next thing now that what we're going to do is, let's quickly move on to Azure storage. Though I wanted to show something else to you as well. Actually, let me do that because since we are here, you have an option of metrics over here. You also have an option of alerts over here. So what metrics basically helps you understand is how much is the CPU utilization of your virtual machine, right? How much CPU. So for example, now here you see 31% of the CPU is getting occupied by my VM that I have created. What if 99% of the CPU is getting utilized? In that case, I can always increase this queue because now I know that okay, the 16, 8 GB, whatever I selected, 8 GB, I guess it's not working. Let me increase the CPU, let me increase the RAM, etc., etc. Let me increase it to a level where I have decent amount of CPU left with, right? So this is where you can keep a check. This is basically nothing, but these are the monitoring tools, right? Similarly, if I wish to create an alert that okay, as soon as my VM reaches hypothetically situation, as soon as my VM reaches occupies 20% of the CPU, example, usually it's 80% 90%, then I want an alert that should be created automatically. So in that case, I can go here in alerts and I can create one alert. I'm not doing that right now because it might take a little time and we need to cover certain more topics, but let me quickly tell you. So you come here on alerts, you have an option of alerts and you can simply go here for complete CPU and you can make this to 20. I guess I've already done that now. And that's it. Nothing else to be done. You go to review and create, you go to details. Right? And you just create. So this is an alert that I have created for my demo VM, right? The moment it crosses 20% of the CPU utilization, it will automatically create an alert. So this particular alert is getting configured. I'm not waiting for this to get configured. It will show up after some time, right? So that's the reason. Let me just refresh it and see if it's working fine. But I guess it's going to get reflected after 5 or 10 minutes. That's the usual time it takes. So let's just leave it as it is and we'll come maybe later on to it and see whether the alert has been created or not. Definitely it will be created, but right? And here you're going to see the alert. Right now we're not able to see any, but it's going to show after 5 to 10 minutes what I have seen till now. Okay, then coming back to our topic again. Now that we have completed creating a VM and we are done with creating a web server on the VM, and we have also seen that how do we monitor the VM, right? The next thing is let's move on to Azure storage. That was the last topic of today's session. So now what Azure storage does is I've already explained you storage in the beginning, right? What cloud storage is all about, etc., etc. So this is just on the top of it now. As to what are the different types of storages that are available on Azure. The first one is the block storage. What that does is basically it is used to store the unstructured data, right? You know what unstructured data is, right? I don't have to explain that. Something that doesn't adhere to a certain model or certain structure, right? So basically it is used to store text or binary data, right? And then you have Azure files, and that is basically used to manage the file shares, and it works on the SMB protocol. Then you have Azure Queue that basically acts like a messaging between the different applications. And then you have Azure Tables that is basically used to store data in a very, very structured format in the form of rows and columns, right? So that is what Azure Table does. So these are these 4-5 different types of storage that you have in Azure. And then when you move forward, okay, then you have Azure Disks as well. So basically Azure Disks is used in Azure VM, right? So for example, I'll show this to you also. So basically, whenever you create a VM, an OS disk automatically gets created. And similarly, you also have a data disk, which you can always use in your Azure VM that basically contains the data regarding that VM, right? So Azure disks are used in that purpose. It's used in the scenarios of a virtual machine. Moving forward, now we have certain redundancy options in the storage account. So I'll just show you how you work with the storage. Before moving ahead, we have these 4 different types of redundancy options in the storage account, and I'm just going to talk about the first 2 quickly. The first one is the LRS, that stands for the locally redundant storage. What that basically does is that your data, right, it gets copied to 3 different, you can say, data centers in a region, right? So even if one of the data center gets, there's a failure at one of the data center whatsoever, you always have a way to, your data is basically saved in the other 2 data centers, right? So that is what LRS is. But let's imagine a worst case scenario wherein your entire region only there is a failure at one particular region. Then what next? That's when comes the, sorry, I should have kept this here, but yeah, that's when comes the ZRS, that is the zone redundancy storage. So here, your data is first copied synchronously in the three data centers, and post that, it is again copied synchronously into the other three data centers of the other region. So even if one of the regions fails, you always have the other region to rely upon, right? And similarly, you have GRS, which is a step ahead of ZRS, and then you have GZRS, which is a step ahead of GRS. It's like that, hierarchy that follows. So, LRS is like used for very basic purposes, but if you want to store something very critical, and then you can go ahead with GRS or GZRS. Again, everything in Azure is very customizable. So everything depends on your needs and requirements. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong, nothing is the best, nothing is the, something average. It just depends on how you need, what best suits your requirements. Okay, so let's get on to the portal pack again. Might take a little time to get created. In which ways, till the time it is getting created, let's quickly show how you work on a storage. So you have this storage account, right, which is again like a resource, and you go to create one. So the first thing that we do is you have to create a storage account. The very first thing when you to work on storage, this is something necessary. So I have this IIT demo new resource group. So you see, I have one resource group created, and everything now I'm putting within that resource group. Because now I'm very clear I'm following the structured approach now, right? And then you have the storage account name. Okay, this is the storage account name. And here you see you have these different redundancy options that I just told you. So I'm choosing LRS because it's just for a demo purpose, right? And then I review this and I create it. Once the validation gets passed, then I simply click on create it. Now, once my storage account has been created, right? The next thing that we do is let's get deployed first, and then I'll show you. Again, this might take, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 minutes to get deployed. You got to wait them. Okay, so my storage account has been created. I go to the resource now. And after that, what I do is, okay, here you see, right? I told you we have these 4 different types of Azure storages, right? We have containers, file shares, queues, and tables. What we are going to work today is containers and file shares. Now, in order to understand something, okay, here if you understand what blob containers, what structure it follows is, we first create a storage account that we have, any name, we give it to it. And after that, we have, we create a container. So in order to create a blob storage, we first create a storage account, then we create a container, and within that container, we basically put our images or video, movie clips, etc., right? This is the hierarchy: storage account, container, and then whatever we save within it is nothing but a blob storage, right? So let's go back and to the portal and understand it over here. So I go to containers now. Okay, I'm within my storage account. I go to container. I click on container and I create a new container. I give any name to it and I create it. Once that is done, I click on this and I maybe upload something on it. One second. Okay, so I've uploaded an image, right? And then I click on upload. Now, one thing that we need to understand here, you see this access here, right? It says hot. So in blob container, you have these three types of different access tiers, that is hot, full, and archive access tier. Now, the hot tier basically means if you want to access something, a particular resource on a very frequent basis, right? That's when you go ahead with the hot access tier. When you want to access something comparatively with a less frequency as compared to the hot access tier, that's when you go ahead with the full access tier. Hypothetically, you can see maybe once in 30 days, once in a month or so. So access data of yours once in 30 days, that's when you're going for full access here. And then you have archive access here. That basically means if you want to just access your data once in a blue moon, that means maybe once in 80 days, that's when you go into the archive access here. Just some extra info. That's always good to have, right? Okay. So now that I've created this, now our aim is to basically access this particular blob image via the internet. So let's see whether that's going to be, that would be possible or not, right? Okay. So you see, I'm not able to access that particular link. Why? It says that it does not appear in the, there's some access is not permitted. You see, it says that access is not permitted, and that is the reason I'm not able to access this online. So in that case, is what we have to do. If you check over here, right, if I click on this image, you see that we have, what is the access tier of this? That is hot, right? But one thing that is there, it is a private anonymous blob. So if I just go a step back, right, and I go a step back, and here if I come, and I go to change access level, you see this is private. Private means no one from public can access it. I cannot access this particular image, that whatever I've uploaded via a public platform. But I don't want that to happen. I want that, okay, if I send this thing to you, you should be able to see the image that I've uploaded. So in that case, what can we do is I go a step back. Okay, so this is not usually, it happens every time, but since it is happening, so we're going to see how to solve this issue. So I come here back to the storage account, and here if you see, there is an option of blob anonymous access, right? So I maybe click on this and let me enable this. Let me enable it and save it. Again, it might take some time because I've just made the changes, but nevertheless, let's check it out if now it's working fine or not. And even if it's not working fine, we are going to troubleshoot it any which ways, right? So you see now this is enabled. Let's see now if it's working or still showing the same issue. Still it's showing the same issue. Let's go to the containers now. IRT container. All right, the access tier for this is still private, so I need to make this public, right? So I go to change access tier, and now you can see earlier it was grayed out, but now it's not grayed out. So now I have the option of changing it to blob anonymous. That means now it is accessible by the net, and now I change it, and now you see this has become blob. Now if I click on this, now I'll be able to access the blob, whatever it is, right? Hopefully, let's see. See, now I'm able to view the image. Dive into, I just uploaded some random image from my gallery, dive into Azure and storage, right? So and now if this link, if I send it to you also, maybe on the chat, you would be able to access it, right? So what I did, what was the troubleshooting method? So see, it's not about creating the resources. You should also be knowing how to troubleshoot the issues that you face, right? And you can face any issue. It's not something that I already had in my mind, even I didn't know that this would end up happening. But then we were able to troubleshoot that issue. That is more important, right? So you need to understand the issue properly. This said that, okay, you do not have the public access. That's when it clicks my mind, okay, there's something related to the access, to this access level. Let's get into it and see what's happening. And even if it wouldn't have solved, I would have still been troubleshooting the issue because we need to get onto the solution any which way, right? So it's very important. Similarly, in the VM case, the VM said that, okay, the agent is not ready, right? So in that case, what we did, we restarted, we saw these troubleshooting steps, right? always you cannot end up creating a new resource, right? But you have to know the way how to get onto the correct solution, even if you're facing an issue. And that's how it always adds up to your learning, right? So here you see how we converted the access level to blob anonymous, and now that is the public, and now we are able to see this image. So this is the public IP address of the VM, that is the web server, and here this one is for this thing. What do you call the blob source that we have created? I so just anyone from the host side, can you just tell me, like, I have one more thing to show. So do we have some time, or how to go about it?
You can take 5 more minutes, I guess. Then we have to close the session.
Sure. Even I have one more meeting after some time, that I just wanted to complete this. Okay, so without any further ado, let's quickly get into it. So we have this IIT demo SC, right? Now quickly coming on to the file share. So we have spoken about the block, right? Which gets created within the containers. Now you have these file shares, right? Now what we are going to quickly try to do is, okay, let's see if that happens. We have quickly tried to create a shareable drive to the VM. That means whatever I basically create here on the portal, it should be visible to me in the VM that I created, and whatever I put there in the VM in that particular drive, it should show up here in the portal. So basically two-way communication, right? So let's quickly get into it. IITM file. I give a name to it. What I'm doing, I'm just simply creating a file share, a container basically, okay? And once that is done, I just simply click on create. And now I've quickly created a simple file share which has nothing within it, right? And the next thing that I do is let me upload. Let this get deployed quickly. Actually, by the way, if you have some questions also, like whoever is there in the audience, who is in the Zoom call, you can also post the questions on the YouTube. I guess there's live going on there. You can put it up over there as well, because the Zoom call will get over and then I wouldn't be able to answer your questions. So at least if you write it up over there, I'll be able to answer you even when the session gets over. And then, of course, you can always ask me on the LinkedIn as well, anytime, because we just have a little bit time constraint. That is the reason I'm saying. So now this file share is getting deployed. Just let's wait for a couple of more seconds. And we're actually done with the presentation as well. We're almost done. Azure files is the last thing that I wanted to cover. And let's quickly get deployed, and then we're going to create a two-way shareable drive. It's just a matter of 2-3 minutes, not much. I don't know what's taking so much time. Still deployed. I guess it's still deployed. Not too sure if it has been deployed or not. It's still getting deployed.
Navika, meanwhile, I guess you can answer the questions. There are a few questions there in the chat.
Okay, where do I put the chat?
Yeah, I'll ask. I'll like read out the questions.
Fine, let me just figure it out. How do I?
Navika, I'll read out the questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so the first question is that how can we get the free exam voucher for Azure?
Free exam voucher. So for
Yes.
we as in you wouldn't get a free exam voucher, right? But it depends first what exam you want to take. I mean, any which ways. I mean, I don't know the way how you get a free exam voucher. Honestly, whoever has asked this question. But yeah, I mean, we have to pay for the exam, right? That's how it is always. Unless and until someone gives you coupons for free examination voucher. So I really don't know how you can get a free, but sorry about that. But it's just that if someone gives you free coupons to take the exam, that's when you get a free voucher, right? But there is no other way
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there was one promotional program was going on. So we had some few like free coupons from the IITM side, but now the program has ended. So maybe you have to wait for it. If it gets live, you will get it. The next question is like the person is asking the entry level jobs in the cloud computing and a brief roadmap of it. Like, can you please
Sure,
briefly
sure.
talk about it?
So I think in my last session, obviously not with IITM, this was the exact topic on which I spoke. And how can just someone tell me how should I open the chat over here? I think give one link to you.
Uh, you can like open the Zoom. You have to click on the Zoom.
Okay, no, I'll just tell you right now as well. And I just want to give one link to you online, but this will really help you understand. Okay. I'm already on Zoom, but I don't know why I'm not able to open the chat. How should I do that? Should I maybe stop sharing my screen and then try doing it?
Yeah, maybe you can try that.
I'm just able to see this particular thing. How should I do it? Can you just stop sharing my video from your face? Or like my screen, stop my screen sharing or something? This becomes very difficult. I'm not able to understand. How should I? I need to share the link with you guys. Yeah.
Can you check it now?
Yeah, now it's working fine. So this is the link that you can go through. I had this is regarding that how you can make your career in this cloud computing IT field, and I just had a chat. So I have this podcast of mine wherein I had a chat with the cloud architect, and he has around 15 years of experience in this field, and he has answered. I've asked all the same questions to him, and he has answered. I guess this is really going to help you out. This is on my channel only, but still, since I'm here, how to get an entry level job. So for that, you have certain subjects that you have to concentrate on. When it comes to cloud computing, you need to understand the basics of it, and then you need to choose at least one cloud computing service wherein you want to excel. So, for example, for me, Azure is the one, right? And otherwise, then you have AWS, you have Google Cloud, depends. But at least in my scenario, I can say for me it is Azure. You got to build up yourself in that space. When it comes to certification, the basic one is AZ 900. That's like Azure fundamentals. You can go ahead with that. That really helps you understanding as to how what Azure is all about, the very basics of it, right from the scratch, right? So that's something that you can do. That's AZ 900. And post that you have AZ 104 certification, that is Azure Administrator, and then you can go ahead with that. But one piece of advice that I would like to give you is that like don't just do it for the certification heck of it. Try to understand each and everything, right? Try to understand as to what contents are getting covered in it, etc., etc. And then you have certain other subjects, for example, DBMS, networking, etc., etc., that you should be concentrating on, right? In order to excel that as well, along with the cloud service that you're doing. And then jobs, again, I depends. It does come in some in campus hiring as well as you're in college. I don't know in case you are. In case you aren't in the college, then you have these online platforms wherein you can apply for the jobs, right? LinkedIn, etc., etc. So yeah, okay. I know we are just running out of time. Next question, please. Listen, I just wanted to share
Yeah.
some.
Yeah. What's the difference between VM and server? This will be the last question, I guess.
VM and server, I mean, for me, I usually call VM and server. I mean, it depends. At times you call it a virtual machine, VM server, not that much of a difference. The working is pretty much the same. It's just like, okay, the name is different. Speaking in a very layman's language, technically there might be certain differences, but on a very general level, it's pretty much the same. Not that much of a difference.
Okay, I can't
And
see any more questions.
but I wanted to
Yeah,
actually
sure.
I
Please
wanted to
quickly.
actually show one of the demo, but then what should we do? Maybe in some further future sessions, or how do you want to
Yeah,
resolve?
sure, sure. Yeah, sure, sure. Maybe we can plan next sessions. We can take feedback from the students and plan one session. It
Great,
will be good.
definitely.
Yeah.
Though still, I guess
So
one is left, but since I guess, as you say, if you want me to do it, I can show the demo. That will take around 10 minutes. If not, the call is yours.
yeah, then if yeah, you can like go ahead and quickly end your demo.
Should I? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Please, you can go ahead.
Okay, so now you see the file share has been created, right? The one that was getting deployed, and in the meanwhile, I started answering the questions. Now I go inside that file share, and what I do is I just upload some random file from my local machine. Okay. Uh, Let me do that. Uh, so I'm just creating one text file. Okay, I'm on the other screen, so maybe you're not able to see that, but because that is my file explorer, that is the reason I've just shifted it to the next screen because it's public, right? The session. So please don't mind. So I've created one folder and now I'm uploading that. Okay, so I've uploaded a folder and now I'm clicking on upload. Not a folder, sorry, a file, very blank file that I've done. And now what's the next thing that I'm going to do is that I click on connect, right? And here I do have an option of show script. Now what I do is I just click and I copy this. This is nothing but a partial script, right? And I click this. Now I go back to my virtual machine. I go to the partial of my virtual machine and I just paste that thing that I copied, right? All right. So what I've done, I've uploaded a file on the portal in the file share, and then I copied the partial script from there and I paste it here inside my VM. Once that is done, then what I do is, so what have I done? Basically, I've mounted that drive over here, and now I go on to the file explorer of the virtual machine. And here, if you see this IITM drive has been created. I've mounted a drive, and within that, I have this test.txt that I uploaded there on the portal, and it's showing up over here. Now, something that I upload over here will show up over there on the portal, right? So it's like a two-way sort of a drive that I've created, right? So whatever I do, if I make any changes to something, it's going to reflect over there. If I make any changes over there, it's going to reflect over here back into VM. So this is nothing but this is like mounting a drive on the virtual machine, which has a two-way communication. Right? That's mostly it. And I guess there are, as I say, Azure is pretty much in-depth subject to understand, but I tried completing as much as possible, and I really hope that you find this session useful and educative. But we have any number of topics that we can cover, and there's no end to it. But this is something that I planned at least for today's session, and I hope you guys found it useful. Thank you so much, Nisha. It's kind of you that you liked my session, and yeah, you can always sort of reach out to me any which ways, and I would love to clear your doubts.
Yeah, thank
have
you,
any-
Navika. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. If you have any questions, you can like quickly ask. Maybe you can put your LinkedIn ID
Yeah.
again.
Let me do that. Let me share my LinkedIn ID. short one.
Thank you, Navika, for this insightful session. I hope students have learned about Azure and they'll be exploring Azure again. And for participants, thank you all for joining the session. I hope so. We'll be planning this similar sessions in future. So we have already discussed it with Navika, and maybe the next session will be on DevOps or MLOps. So we'll be planning such sessions soon. We'll also take your feedback into consideration. So please feel free to email us regarding your like topic names and all, like which all things that you want to learn about. Then we can plan accordingly and make it available to you. Thank you all again for joining the session. I think we can close the session. Have a great day. Everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, South for this Friday. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.